I tapped into untapped commission, and that was an eye-opening experience for me personally because I'm a workaholic maybe. I love to work. I enjoy the process of making money, building relationships, creating new things, and I'm a grinder. Look, there's pros and cons to everything in life. I made a lot of money doing that. When I learned the door-to-door game, I really learned sales and really eat what you kill mentality. I didn't understand what it was to run a business. I was just like, dude, I'm making $2-3 grand on this. The company's making 30 grand. This is not fair. I'm going to do it myself. There are certain types of investors that want certain things.
Yeah.
The younger demographic investors want a higher return, higher multiple quicker. Yep. The older demographic base is like, hey, I've made a lot of money over the years. I don't need any homers anymore, and I want it as tax efficient as possible, and I want the cash flow every month.
Yeah.
I wanted to hit the mailbox. Yeah. I wanted to hit the mailbox, and I want limited risk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome to the CashFlow Quest. We got a really fun, exciting friend here. Has a big track record of starting companies. Now has a company called ADU Pals, and it's Jonathan Mitchell. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
The framework is really simple. It's kind of your story that got you here. Then now the fun stuff you're doing. What are you excited about in the current business? And then in our opinion, all roads lead to cash flow and the need for cash flow. So then it's like, all right, what's your opportunity zone that you're chasing through the business, through the vertical integration, like we kind of talked off camera. Then what's the end goal, to produce cash flow or have rentals? What are you looking to do? So that's kind of the format that we go after.
Love it. Well, thanks again for having me on, guys. I was born and raised right here in El Cajon, California. Went to Granite Hills.
Dude, we're neighbors.
We
went to
us too.
Yeah, so we beat you guys 28-14 my senior year in football. But I was born at Grossmont Hospital.
So were we.
So East County is in kind of my heart. I love that you guys set up here. Ben brought me here maybe a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
And just an awesome office and facility you guys have here. And then the planes and all that, super dope. But yeah, I grew up super humble beginnings. Ben and I, share that in common. Didn't have much growing up. And when I say I was poor. But everything's relative, right? Born in this country, the United States of America in San Diego.
Hit the lottery.
So, it is relative. But yeah, Section 8, welfare as a kid, single mom, the whole thing. But I always say it's not a sob story. Like, I was raised in a really good, church. I had really strong men around me. Was taught essentially to read the Bible and, have ethics and morals and all that good stuff. So again, it could have been a lot worse. And I take it for what it was. And thankful for that. But yeah, traveled a bunch. And then when I came home from living in Europe, I got into business. And so started at Verizon, always been in sales and marketing. I connect with people relatively easily. And then just promoted, worked super hard. And then got into door-to-door sales. And from there, I tapped into untapped commission. And that was an eye-opening experience for me personally because I'm a workaholic maybe. I love to work. I enjoy the process of making money, building relationships, creating new things. And I'm a grinder.
Yeah.
What was that job? What were you doing?
When I was selling phones, Blake, but when I started knocking doors, it was all commission.
For solar? For
solar. Okay. So no base. Literally, you eat what you kill, and it was just work, go. And then I started building teams, and then it was essentially you get a downline, then you promote, then you get more sort of people underneath you. But, we can get into kind of what I'm doing now, but there's pros and cons to that, right? With more heads, more sales people, there's more time spent building culture. There's more time spent, listening to people's problems, helping them succeed. And so you can't produce as much personally. And then sometimes you end up wasting time on people who are not necessarily going to be the biggest producers or have your best interests at heart.
Yeah, you really become
sometimes
like a business coach.
You train guys and then they leave or they try to recruit your people. And so look, there's pros and cons to everything in life. I made a lot of money doing that. But when I learned the door-to-door game, I really learned sales and really eat what you kill mentality. And then that was really the start of my entrepreneurial journey, because I was like, because there's another side to this as well.
So did something like happen, or did you have an experience that all of a sudden made you like have that shift to where you were working for somebody, you were going door to door, making uncapped commissions, and then you learned about it and you said, okay, hold on, I'm going to do my own thing now and not work for somebody? Was there something that happened that made you decide that?
Honestly, Jen, I was busting my ass.
Yeah. Going door to door.
Working very,
100%.
very hard, and the
Yeah, it's a
commission
lot.
was great. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna make $2,000, $3,000 on this deal. They're not providing me any leads, and this is like really like a lot of, I think, salespeople's paradigm, and it was mine back then. I didn't, as I was telling you before when we were offline, Blake, I didn't understand miscellaneous costs. I understand marketing budgets. I understand, what it takes to pay for insurance and 401ks, and do things in legality and have attorneys. And I didn't understand what it was to run a business. I was just like, dude, I'm making $2-3 grand on this. The company's making 30 grand. This is not fair. And that was the thing in my mind.
Okay.
And so then when we started the company, I recruited, we were able to sell, yes, but I had no idea. I didn't know how to read a balance sheet, a P&L. I didn't know what cash flow statements were. I didn't understand any of that stuff when I started the company. I just said, hey, I know how to sell. These guys are making way too much money off me. I'm going to do it myself.
Cool,
and that's what I did. I jumped in
So
and
you
it
grew
was
a
brutal.
solar contracting company.
I did. So there's a lot of groups that sort of started just like sales dealerships, right? So like Ford or a big manufacturer of a car, they would just be a dealer, right? Sure. Some of the guys that are around here, there's a bunch of out in East County. But we were like, no, we want to do the actual thing. And
which is harder.
Way harder. It's being a proper operator, dude.
Well, and a construction company, and that's a big deal. There's a lot of ways to burn money in construction if you're not tight. Yeah, I get it.
And it was solar. Go ahead.
And just to clarify for the listener too, so when you started this company, it was an ADU. Your company's called ADU Pals.
It is now, yes.
Okay,
so what was the company called before?
Yeah.
Synergy Construction Incorporated.
Okay, and what specifically, when you started that, did that company do?
So we had an A license, a B, C10, and C39. So we were a general engineering company. We had a general contracting license. We had our C10, which is an electrical contracting license, and C39, which is a roofing contracting license in California. And we got all those over time. And the thinking was we just didn't want to be a solar company. So a lot of solar companies, as you guys probably remember, they're emerging, they were booming, they were popping up like everywhere.
Yeah.
And there was problems sometimes. People weren't selling with integrity, et cetera.
Yes.
We were not one of those groups. But we also wanted to separate ourselves and be able to do essentially what I'm doing now, because I've explained this story before. Like, my goal is never to grow up and be a solar contractor. I always knew real estate would be my lane. Okay. And so we started doing other things like turf, like roofing, like wiring houses, doing some small like additions, TIs, that kind of stuff. But then what happened is I got too stretched out when COVID hit. That company took a beating. And again, we did like 127 million. We had 4 offices in 2 states. I had 115 W-2 employees. The whole thing.
Good for you.
From the ground.
You had your hair on fire.
Yeah.
It was nuts, dude. It was nuts.
And I might add, you just told me off camera that you had kids. So during that time, you were having babies and starting a family. And
so Jenny, I quit my door-to-door job and started this when she was 7 months pregnant with our first kid.
Okay.
And she was like, "You're nuts. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I got to do it. If it's not now, it's never." And so, we did $1 million first year. We did 5 second, 12, 20, 33. And then COVID hit and we had some really rough times. And again, like you said, Blake, it was just nuts, man. I was a new entrepreneur. I think there was too much ego. There was sort of biggest, baddest syndrome. We're going to do it because people said we can't, kind of a mentality. And
that was a hot niche market for that run.
It was pumping, dude.
It was pumping.
Yeah.
And when you did it,
and the top line saved us. It hit a lot of the stuff that we didn't know. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I had a buddy in this business. So do you understand what he did? Yeah. So he had a big crew of sales guys knocking doors, going for solar, roofing, the cleanup, the green energy stuff.
All that.
Because you need
renewable energy, turf.
Yeah, turf.
Yeah.
But it's like anything you can quickly bolt on to a construction contract for 50 grand.
100%.
Yeah.
Totally. I get it.
And my buddy was a sales guy and helped do that. So I just knew some of that from
background.
different contexts. But solar was tanking because of the whole regulation.
Well, yeah.
So
NEM-
they came in and
NEM
gave you a
changed.
deal at
Yes.
13 cents a kilowatt. you
Yeah.
know, and
Great deal as a PPA.
Yeah.
I've slung a lot of PPAs in my time. Many a PPA.
It helps lock in that clean energy, baby.
It's great, bro.
I even sized it for my big spa, my swim spa.
Yeah, true.
It was
churning juice.
when I first got in. I'll tell you guys, like I try to be an ethical person and be authentic and sell and live my life with integrity. I do. I'm not a perfect human.
So you didn't want to upsell too far.
No, dude, the thing that was part of it,
Yeah.
100%. I didn't rip people off or like try to maximize how much I would make. I really wanted to give someone a fair deal because, again, I believe in like being able to sleep at night and just doing the right thing. Like I don't need all the money in the world. I don't. So for us, we grew because of that, I think.
Yeah.
Where a lot of guys just came and went. Obviously, COVID hit us pretty hard, but I say all that to say this, that like there are still guys trying to sell solar now, but the industry is not like it was back then. Bro, I could take someone's bill. They were really paying $300 a month and take it down to $125. And that was the entire sale.
Yeah.
It was so good that people didn't believe you.
Yeah.
They're like, you're full of it. No, I'm like, that's the whole thing. But then when the NEM, the regulations changed, Blake, the game is not the same anymore now.
Yeah.
It's just not.
No. It's a whole battery backup, the whole thing. It's a whole different animal.
100%.
So is that what then pivoted your solar company to have like change direction?
COVID hit us really, really hard.
So now
Or do you
COVID, you
still
can't
have
freaking
it?
go in people's houses. So like it's a nightmare.
Well, you
So
couldn't sell 'cause-
COVID hit us really hard.
Yeah.
It was in LA where a lot of our crews, I had 12 full-time crews only in Southern California. That's like 3 to 4 man crews, vans. I had like 10 to 12 electricians in their own vans. I had permit runners. I had 26 in our office. We had 10,000 square feet. Like it was an operation that just, you had to then submit for a permit, Ben. Then they just put it in the back room for 2 weeks in LA. So when my guys couldn't work, like it just compounded really quickly. And again, I was a newer entrepreneur. I was more experienced then.
Everything was just
brutal.
The train stopped.
It was brutal. And I wasn't willing. There were some companies that went out and just started installing without permits just to stay alive. That wasn't us. I don't judge anyone else for doing what they're going to do, but in the end, it was one of the best things that happened to me because I think where you're going with that, Jen, was I was already investing in real estate on the side. But it was a secondary thing for me. I had another GC that was just running my stuff, but I wasn't really fully immersed into real estate. It was a side thing because I had this other business that required so much of my time.
Totally.
Yeah.
So then when I just said, hey, look, let's look at this thing that's happening in this ADU space. I had some property in San Diego. And we just looked at it and said, dude, this is the way, man.
Yeah, and I think it's just interesting thinking about the solar tailwinds because of some of the regulatory and tax breaks, and solar just took off. And then now that COVID, obviously, that gets hit, but then this new opportunity emerges, which is ADUs in San Diego specifically, but you're starting to see it up and down the coast, like Seattle, I think, is another market. And it's this massive opportunity where, because of the regulatory ability to create additional square footage or remove buying a single family lot, putting on 12 units. I mean, it's kind of historic.
That is, it's crazy.
It's crazy. It's a moment in time.
Like, the getting's good.
Exactly. It's like a moment in time. So I'm really interested I think we all are, to kind of pick your brain a little bit on your business, but just for our listeners, talking about the ADU, some of the regulatory advantages that are available today, and then let's get into some of the numbers. So
yeah, I think that, obviously in business, timing is really important, right? So I think where I was in solar on the bell curve, there were some really big early adopters that got hammered in solar. And I came in right when it was sort of de-risked a bit, but it was still just firing on all cylinders. And it was shooting up. The same thing I think has happened, thank you, Jesus, for ADUs. Like there's been some companies that have come and gone. There's some other ones that are they're better known than ours that are having major problems. I'm not going to mention any names right now, but so we sort of took the business acumen in our group. I think obviously teams are really important as well. I recruited my COO, Greg Martin, from Florida. He's a 20-year contractor, licensed GC, worked on Hurricane Katrina. He's worked on a bunch of sort of disasters, just perfect timing. He came over, and then now we have Wang, who's a PhD from Cornell, UCSD, was one of our first clients, joined our team as well. So, you know, we have a strong group of guys that really are getting after it, true entrepreneurs. And then again, where we are in the business with ADUs is, I mean, it's just like a heaven send to be from this city. 8 to 9 out of every 10 ADUs are built in the country are built in Southern California.
No kidding. I didn't know the numbers.
I didn't know that either.
Yes.
That's
So
incredible.
we are running away with it, just like we did in solar. So we're running away with it here. And the really cool thing is I think San Diego is a very unique city because I would say we're blue leaning to purple in a very blue state. So the value of our dirt here, and normally when you have a high strata area, the regulations are just brutal. LA, San Francisco, Chicago, you can go down the list, right?
Yeah, sure.
We have a pro-development city, which is such a big concept when I talk to investors and other people, even you guys who I'm just now meeting, and you guys are awesome, but it's everyone's sort of afraid of what about the politics? What about the politics? Right? When it comes to real estate and developing.
Totally.
But this city
That's a
is
big risk factor.
It is.
super pro units.
When you say city of San Diego?
That's
or
right.
County? Or
City of San Diego. Well, it's California in general. We need doors. It plays really well for the blue side because we need affordable housing. We need more doors.
Yes.
It plays well for us. It plays well for the red side because
increasing density, more doors.
We're investors and we need real estate.
Cash flow and creates opportunities for people like that are maybe more red to have that opportunity. And so to your point, it's a win-win for both political sides if that's what you're,
And back to Ben's point, the same thing happened in solar. At first it was a super blue thing only, but then it ended up being, after a couple of years, people on the right were like, bro, this makes sense. It's making money. It's saving me money. Like, let's go. And then it became sort of both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing has happened again to bring it down more the micro in San Diego here. And then I even interviewed one of the very first pioneers of the ADU space. He's out of Portland. His name's Cole Peterson, Harvard guy. But he's talking about how sustainability and renewables by building infill, because we don't have to go stretch out. And essentially we're already using space within the city to build ADUs. And the other thing is just the value of the dirt. It makes so much sense. People have big backyards. They're struggling to get to cash flow, which we'll get to. How do you create cash flow with assets that you own? ADUs make a tremendous amount of sense.
I love the concept, and I love that they're streamlining the regulatory process for permits. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
And I it's almost as though you could correct me, but it's almost as though if you buy a single family house, the house price for a decent sized yard that you could do an ADU on hasn't fully adjusted for the opportunity factor.
No, and I don't think it will, because it's still development. You still have to either have equity, you have to be able to access capital, the HELOC, whatever you're going to do, savings, 401k, self-directed IRA, whatever you're going to do to essentially build. So I don't think it's really going to be the boom until the debt catches up somehow.
So one of my big questions I wrote down this morning was, how do you pay for it?
Right.
For a normal consumer, a customer, like, if I come to you because I have a half acre right here, I want to put a garage with an ADU on top. But it's like, I don't want to stroke the $200,000 check.
So that's
a cash flow guy. He's like,
I like paying cash.
That's what you have to do now. And again, every investor or homeowner or client is going to be different. To be completely transparent, we started this with a way more, our approach was going to be a lot more B2C. So like you, but Blake, I'm tired of having this conversation. And we are investors first, our group. We've led with that in our branding and who we are. It's the truth anyways. So we're raising capital, taking down our own deals. It's becoming not cumbersome to deal with B2C clients, but is the juice worth the squeeze for us?
It's a lot of people that would probably be really interested, but then can't afford it.
Not only that, they also are on Pinterest a lot. And so you have to educate every client. And I am a customer service guy. And so it becomes opportunity cost for us, because let's say the contract is, let's say it's $200K, and let's say we're going to make 15% on that contract. Is that enough money for me to spend that time or build it out when I can go buy a property, fix it up, put a renter in it, develop it on the back, and build and make 10x that. So now we're doing a lot more JV deals.
Yep.
So like, let's say Ben and you guys owned a property in downtown. You're like, hey, it's sitting there. I'm making $2,000 because you guys are cash flow guys a month, but it has a big piece of property in the back. Hey, what can we do? Then we would come to you guys and be like, hey, look, we'll develop it with you. We will bring equity if we need to. We'll bring the debt if we need to. And we'll chop up whatever on the back. You guys can buy us out. We can buy you out. We can just keep it cash flowing it together. But we'll have created equity, right? So appreciation on the dirt by bringing more density, as well as cash flowing, because we can essentially create that juice, get the right leverage, get the debt, and now we're cash flowing on top, which is what everyone wants, in the world, as you guys do, and especially in Southern California where we live. So for us, it's just the best thing ever. Like, I live, sleep, breathe, and eat this.
It's a really cool idea to do JVs because we've been talking about it in our space. So I'm really the acquisitions lead, if you will. So I'm the deal guy. I run around talking to everybody. But there's several people that are now getting older and they own a bunch of mobile home parks, but they're like 80, they don't have any kids. And it's kind of like, what am I going to do with these? But they have a wife that's going to, so, but if there's any health concerns, like there's conversations. So then we get pinged for like third-party management, which we don't do for the same reason. Everyone's like, well, why don't you guys build out the third-party management? Like, I don't want to build a management company unless I own that dirt.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about doing JVs, but you guys have a lot of leads.
So I see about 50 deals a week right now.
That's a lot.
And we're just now, I was telling you guys offline, building out the direct vertical. So like, we're going to start pumping into marketing and going directly to sellers. Because right now we source deals through wholesale. As Ben mentioned, I'm a big marketer. So online, I have a podcast, Deeds, Deals, and Drinks. Guys, check it out. But like, seeing a lot of deals is great. Buyable deals, as you know, Blake, and Ben, is where you're really at. Yep. And then sellers who are realistic about what the number is. So I like JVs because bigger picture for us, as I was mentioning, is outside of ADUs, there's two ways to really build, right? So there's R3 construction, and Ben, you can ask some more questions, which is more sort of like ADUs. Okay, so it's technically 3. If you have 2 doors under one roof, it's R3.
Okay.
So 2 or less. So basically 1 or 2 would be R3. R2 construction is 3 or more. So multifamily. The difference between the two is, so what we're doing often is we're stacking side-by-side duplexes to stay in R3 because it's an easier process. There's less fees. There's less plan checkers. It's quicker. It's not...
Take a house and turn it into 2 units with 1 common wall.
Or we could take a home. There's a lot in the back. We would build 6 units, but instead of 6 under one door or one roof, we would go 2 separate slabs.
Yeah,
2
3
duplexes. Sorry, 3
That's
duplexes.
right. So then now we have 7 units in this scenario, which we do all the time. It's
home
sort
up
of
front.
Home up front. The other thing is we
back.
mitigate risk because we put a tenant in the front to cover some of our float for the debt while we're developing. Let's say it takes a year to develop. They're paying some of the float, and then we're buying the property right as well. So we're making money on that dirt, but we're never tearing that house down. This is one
waste.
One
You
lane.
would potentially waste a house that really has some value. And
That's right.
The hard cost.
If we're going to do the R3 play, and again, this is one vehicle that we do. So we have multiple properties like this, and then we'll sometimes even split the house and make it into a duplex. So then we'll go from 1 to 7, 1 to 8, because the SFR becomes a duplex.
That's unreal.
And we're mitigating risk because worst case scenario, we own this home in San Diego. If it all goes to shit, sorry about the cussing. I know this.
We're Christian, but we also cuss.
Okay, cool. Great. Me too. So if it all goes really bad, worst case scenario, I still own that house and that dirt. And then again, I'm mitigating risk by doing it all in-house, internally, vertically, all the development, and not paying the piper everywhere, to get it done. And then we build as well. So
yeah, I love that.
And I've seen a handful of people that have done this strategy, and I've seen some of their pro formas. Like, how are you seeing the demand? Because a lot of them are like 1 bedroom, 1 bath, right? A lot of 1-1. So in that scenario, say you have a 3-2 in front, you change it to a 2-1 and a 1-1, right? Up front, it's 2,000 square feet. Let's say the back lot, they'll add like 6 units. but most of the unit mix is like 1-1s, right? And they're like 500, 600 square feet, like max. What do you think that like demand is for those, for that unit mix, right?
Those small micro units.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're not necessarily families, right? And so that was always been my thing is when I see some of these deals, it's like, well, I don't really love the unit mix because I know from my experience, a 2-1 is stickier than a 1-1. A 3-1 is going to be way more stickier because more bedrooms means you have kids or somebody else living there. Versus a 1-1 is generally like, I don't know, a single person, maybe a couple, a bachelor, what have you. So how do you kind of think about the unit mixes when you're looking at, or is it just so much demand right now in San Diego that it really doesn't matter?
Investing, no matter what, there's inherent risk, right? I'm an operator. I think that if the deal's risky and it has some hair on it, we might have an opportunity to make more money.
Well, and location plays a big
So then
play.
that's the next thing. Obviously, we are super into our market. Like I cross streets. Another thing I would always say is you have to be buying right. So how much are you getting the dirt for to create the spread? Because if you have to, you cannot manipulate the pencil or the spreadsheet to make your pro forma work.
Yeah.
No,
like you have to buy right.
On work, like 1 bedroom or studios, you just have to make sure you don't over plan for that.
Exactly.
Or you can't like, you sort of, have to eat crow at the beginning when you're getting in. You don't have to, you need mentorship and you need to understand what you're doing. But the bottom line is be buying right. Number 2, understand what's coming to the market. How many of these units are coming online. Where you're buying. Are you close to USD? Are you close to UCSD? Are you close to San Diego State?
Yep.
Right? Are you providing parking? Do they need parking?
Yep.
Right? How is the parkability? Is it RS17 residential and you're the only one building units there? So that's been part of the problem. I would say that people like to look at the outlier and make that the scariest thing that's ever existed.
Yep.
But generally speaking, even if people are having to give more incentives for people to move in, these units are still leasing up. They're maybe not getting the exact rents that they thought they would get without parking. So I would say parking is a huge issue.
So give us an example on like a micro unit, or what are you building? Give us a live example.
So there's 2 things we're building. Again, I was going to get back to that R2 and R3. So we're moving more into R2 now. I used to be super afraid of elevators. I used to be super afraid of subterranean parking. I used to be super afraid of podium. I'm talking about me personally as an investor.
Well, they're expensive. Yeah.
It's scary. The unknown is scary in general is when you're investing, but the more you talk to people, the more you de-risk it, the more you have conversations, the more you talk to builders, other developers, it gets better. And now we're doing this essentially as the consultant for others. So we're de-risking it for ourselves before we start to pump our equity in. And we're having a lot of conversations with builders, and it's just helping us. And now we're buying properties and we're going to be moving more into that. So what was the question?
So
a real life scenario.
Of a deal that maybe you're bringing online, state units, whatever.
So
paint a picture.
So
and
we bought one in, on Hilltop. That's down in sort of central San Diego. We got it for $600,000. Again, back to the original point, the wholesaler got it for 20,000. 525 or something. So we paid an assignment fee, $75,000.
Okay.
We still got it at 600. We rehabbed the duplex. We put tenants in. It's online on Zillow right now, worth about 900. So we created all of that equity through the rehab, minus obviously our costs.
Sure.
And we're going to build 6 units behind, so it'll be a total of 8. That will be the R3 side by side. I mean, I can't go into like sort of our build costs right now, but we're projecting that those will rent for anywhere from $400 to $450 a square foot. Those will be 1-1s and 2-1s. We will have parking on that because it's a bigger lot. It's 10,000 square feet, which in San Diego is a really big lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways we could have unpacked that. Again, to your point, Ben, because of the laws here, there's so many things you can do. You can go really big. And to back it out, it's a unique opportunity for us, and this is why it's so unique. Developers generally are always dealing with constraints, whether you're in a blue state or a red state. So if I buy a piece of dirt, the city has a master plan, they have it zoned a certain way. Now some developers go in and get it rezoned.
Right.
They shake hands, they go to meetings, they get it rezoned. That can take a long time.
That's the big risk, in my opinion.
So we build by right here.
Yep.
So there's base zoning and there's overlay zoning. So it's already super de-risked, which again, I think is super important for people to understand when they think about development. They think about tentative maps, they think about final maps, they think about city council meetings. There's one tomorrow, but like generally speaking, we're building by right. And so it's already super de-risked. And again, at the end of the day, what are we doing here? We're trying to create cash flow. We're trying to create for us the triple play, which is to get all of our equity out, to create equity and cash flow the deal. And if we can do that, how many times do you guys think that I'm going to do that?
Yeah, as many as you can.
As many as you can.
And that's what we're doing. Systematically, not stretching out too far, learn through the solar days. You know, bigger's not better. Get your ego out of it. Fundamentally sound, have the right team, be able to operate, control everything you can control. And, you know, hopefully they don't change the laws on us before I can
Get
stack
a bunch of them.
Stack as back as I can.
A whole bushel.
Exactly. There's some of these shekels.
What are some of the markets that you really like right now in San Diego that just seem to provide the best ROI, that have that overlay or like fall within the complete communities zoning?
So there's complete communities, there's SDA. So we're moving closer to the beach, you know, closer to the 5. We just bought one on Texas a week ago.
Nice.
That one we got for 1.275. We already got it leased up. We got it leased up before we closed escrow. And we're going to tear that one down and build probably 24 units, maybe even more. We got another one on Claremont that we just took down for 1.275, but that one's just a straight flip. But we would build on that property, but the footprint of the house is so large comparatively to the lot that it doesn't make sense. And then we don't really want to hold it to convert. I like North Park. You know about my Indiana deal where I'm building 12 units. We have a bunch in central San Diego, but again, that's kind of where we've been in this for now with our group for 16 months, where we kind of started. It's like where the Hilltop deal is. But now we're moving more and more towards sort of higher demos, because if I'm going to build up and I'm going to invest a tremendous amount of capital, operational expense, et cetera,
I'll make sure the rents are there.
OpEx, I got to make sure that I'm getting the same, because it costs me the same to build in Logan Heights as it does to build in Pacific Beach. My cost is the same.
The hard costs are there.
Right. But then I'd rather pay more for the dirt. Let's say I'm paying $1 million versus, $2 million.
Yeah.
But then the yield, I'm going to be able to invest a lot more and get a lot higher return on my rents. My ROI is going to be better.
The rent growth story is there.
Everything's better. And it's easier to raise capital as well.
Correct.
What size unit do you like? 1-1?
I think we just don't have enough units like coming online. We got military that comes in here. We got biotech that comes in here. And there's a lot of couples that need just a smaller place to live. They're going to school or whatever. They're just starting their careers. And so, I like 1-1s. I like 2-1s. I like 2-2s.
What's the square footage that you
So on
normally
average, we're probably right around anywhere from 5 to 700 on average. If we stay below 750 right now, we avoid some fees. If we stay below 500, we avoid some fees.
You get 25 to $3,000 for a one bedroom, one bath.
Oh, dude, yeah, bro.
So I've lost touch here. Like I was just talking to my wife about it. Like she's like, "Oh, so and so's building an ADU in their yard. It's gonna be a 1-1." She thinks they can get somewhere in like the 2,500 range. I'm like,
oh no, it depends on the square footage. So I would say on average in San Diego we're 385, depending on where you are, a square foot.
Okay.
You're gonna get more for smaller square footage though. Per square foot.
Sure.
Yep.
Right.
Sure.
But if you say some units in like say Little Italy are like 200 square feet and they're getting like $10 a foot. So those are outliers.
Sure.
But I would say you're like 375, 385 to like 525 on average throughout San Diego per square foot, if just as a baseline number.
So then location is very
very
dynamic piece
Critical
of it.
piece.
Yeah.
But the other thing is in the lower demo areas, or you have still super high demand.
Yeah.
And so for me as an operator, I think sometimes the mistake that operators make is they look at things through the macro instead of the micro, or they focus too much on the macro because it sounds cool to know stats and all this kind of stuff that's coming down from Wall Street.
Yep.
At the end of the day, bro, like how many deals are you guys really buying and how many am I buying? And what's more important to know? My market, what I'm doing, my lane, what my investors are after and what we're after, what the bank will allow for, rather than know all the stats
when we
everywhere.
We
You know
share
what I mean?
that.
Yeah.
We focus heavy in family workforce housing.
Yeah.
So like I'm with you on, you know, if you're going to squeeze an extra quarter per square foot out of one market or the other, but the cost and, you know, maybe the property cost just to buy it is significantly less because everyone's chasing the PB deal for double. You buy those, you do it, and the rent's there, and it's cash flowing better.
And also the portfolio is more well-rounded.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's potentially stickier, the resident base, there's maybe not as much product going online. So yeah, we actually prefer family deals.
Dude, we have phenomenal tenants that are, you know, all different demos. Like, as long as you look them in the eyes, you talk to them, and they're going to be good tenants, bro. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And some of those people they'll stay there forever.
Yeah.
You don't have to turn it over.
We have similar tenants in our home, you know, communities too. And they just want a good, safe, you know, community to live in,
100%.
to raise a family, and they have their job that they love, and they just want a nice place to be with a good landlord that's going to have good communication.
Love
know?
it.
Well, they're just, I'd say, an all around easier demographic of people to work with.
Right.
You know, so as you go into that bougie side, now they demand service.
A little more needy.
Yeah. That's why I like the workforce housing component of what we do. And it sounds like in certain markets, it would be similar to what, you know, where you're investing as well. Is because, I mean, if you drive through our communities, you know, at noon, they're empty because everyone's at work, right? And so I think it's that like bootstrap mentality, that workmanship, like, hey, yeah, like I'm going to have pride of ownership over my home where I live, keep it clean, keep it tidy. I have pride of ownership over the things that I own. And then, you know, I work really hard for this. And so rather than, I'm not saying when you go in more upscale, you lose sight of that. But I think to Blake's point, they just demand more.
Yeah.
And then it's probably more turnover, which you would think the opposite would be true. But I think when you get into higher, you know, Pacific Beach or upper and like A-class communities, you do have more turnover because they're always like, what's next? You know, oh, the place down the street has a nicer Polar, it's newer, they're giving 1 month free, I'm going to jump to that. So you're constantly working the deal more, where in workforce housing, it's like kind of set it and forget it. Like, hey, I'm here, and they kind of get in their rhythm and build their family and community in that place. And that's where they want to be as well. It's probably where they grew
I
up.
love what you guys
families,
do.
you know.
When Ben explained to me what you guys do, like obviously I know operators that are in the mobile home park space, but you guys do it differently, like in certain capacities, the way you guys build out the community. Like, I love it, dude.
I appreciate
and
that.
Yeah, I also cost segregation, you know what I mean? So we got to talk, bro, you know what I mean? I might throw a little something at it, you know?
Yeah.
Get some cash flow.
Mobile home parks, they're great cash flow, but they're the best from a tax standpoint. And when it comes to depreciation and write-offs, so that was something when I came into the space and met Blake 3 years ago now, maybe longer. I was blown away because I was always working with taxed deferred investors pension funds, so we never talked about taxes. And then when
they don't even get the benefit, they're wanting to allocate capital and they don't even realize the benefit of the tax.
They don't need it.
It's really like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Let us the small companies buy it and use the depreciation. Baby.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then raise money from people that can benefit from it. Right. And so.
And I knew it was special, but then I bumped into a billionaire like family that's getting into the space. This goes back 5-10 years ago. And he goes, you know, hey, I mean, maybe we should say it quieter because isn't it like a secret? Like they thought they had stumbled into like the depreciation gold mine. And they needed depreciation because they have a bunch of older, you know, historically owned assets that are pumping cash flow, but they have no depreciable basis anymore. So then they buy a portfolio of mobile home parks or RV parks, and they can start washing that. And so, you know, it just kind of dawned on me because I had been selling it, you know, pre-Ben. I'd been selling the whole concept of depreciation and it's 100% this and that. But we weren't selling it like we are now. Yeah. We didn't realize how special it was.
When Ben brought me here a year and a half ago, it was heavy into tax techs. And I'm like an appreciation guy. I mean, I like cash flow. You guys are cash flow people.
Yeah.
But I'm like, bro, I want to rip appreciation.
Yeah, you're a developer.
I want to build and create multiple X equity, as much as I can, as fast as I can, and as repeatable as I can. But I like the cash flow thing too. You know, it's good.
You gotta have both.
It's good to be able to be in Maui and just know you're making money, dude.
Well,
If you're making big appreciation spreads and then capitalizing on those sales, then you have extra cash to then invest.
It's also
to
for your
create the
guys'
cash
investor base too, right? There are certain types of investors that want certain things.
Yeah,
And
100%.
the younger demographic
Yeah,
investors
I was
want a higher return, higher multiple quicker.
Yep.
The older demographic base is like, hey, I've made a lot of money over the years.
I'm
I don't
done.
need any homers anymore, and I want it as tax efficient as possible, and I want the cash flow every month.
Yeah.
I want it to hit
Don't
the
lose my money.
mailbox.
Yeah.
I want it to hit the mailbox, and I want limited risk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's where we really focus.
Yeah.
But our properties do appreciate, but it's not the type of equity. Like you can 2 to 3x in probably under 5 years.
Yeah.
That's not what we're able to do.
It's a different jam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to connect. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You guys help
Yeah.
us. We help you.
That's right.
Well,
I love the concept. I want to look at your guys' pitch deck too.
I do too.
Love it.
And then maybe we can help you long term build a structure, because we're blessed with that. We bumped into our structure from a multifamily guy.
Yeah.
And he was our mentor, still is. He's like a 10, 20,000 unit apartment guy here in San Diego. And so we just modeled it out of ignorance. And it turns out it was like a home run.
This guy's a genius. The reason why he owns 15,000 units.
I don't claim to be that smart. I just claim
Same.
I model success.
Yeah.
You know?
And it leaves clues.
And it leaves
does,
clues.
it
And he's
does.
got a hell of a jet, you know? And it's got a bedroom in it, you know? And it's like, all right, let's model him.
Yeah. What do you
This guy
do?
knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Probably hangs out in Dubai.
So anyways, yeah, we have to compare notes and keep going down the road.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
we're fired up. I would love to continue to learn the San Diego market. I just think San Diego, honestly, we were talking about this the other day. We want to ride and like see what happens with the wave of the multifamily guys that really screwed up, because they got into so many adjustable rate loans. And I'm hearing about a bunch of deals now in San Diego that are
know.
going to be kind of probably trading for under their replacement cost.
Yeah, I think that's just across the nation. I think San Diego's actually been a little bit
more resilient.
more resilient
Yeah.
than some of the, some of the other states in the Bible Belt, et cetera. I've been waiting, but we've been waiting for 7-8 years. And I think some of these guys are going to figure it out. And I think the bank is probably going to look at these assets and maybe take them back. But I don't know, Blake. I've been waiting
I know.
7-8 years for these juicy deals.
Well, I don't think they're going to be that juicy though either. I mean, at the end of the day, the construction cost, let's say they built some brand new units, the construction cost was expensive. So unless the banks are willing to take it back and then take a haircut,
Right.
you know, like
That's where the relationships
so
come
the
in.
time
Yeah.
we're just
That's why we need Ben for the asset management. BlackRock call, make another call, and then all of a sudden
Well, I have some
you got
informants.
the list.
They're coming.
You got the list.
I have some informants, and they're coming, but not until just now.
And I think too, we've talked about this. The way that I think you have to play it is that if you could buy a good asset in a good location at replacement or close to, what you're banking on is, say, like this stuff was trading at like a 4 cap, in 2021, and now you're getting it at a today 5.25, 5.5, and that's probably at replacement cost, just given where rents are. But you're banking that what's going to happen is that all the development's going to slow because it's not feasible to get into the dirt and build new. And so you're banking on, hey, I'm buying a really good asset at a 5 cap, maybe 5.25, but there's going to be this rent growth story over the next 5 to 10 years because we are so underbuilt. A lot was built over the last couple of years. Like deliveries have been at 40-year highs in 2024, but all that stuff's going to get absorbed, and then we're going to be back to where we were 2020.
See, I don't
2019.
love that as an investment strategy. And that's just me. Everyone has their own sort of, lane. But like, I don't like multifamily in California in general, in San Diego in general, to just buy and hold, maybe do some TIs, do traditional sort of value add.
Yep.
It doesn't really pencil. You'd have to get it just a slamming deal.
Yeah.
For
really-
us, the only
it's not
way it
juicy,
works
to
is
his
if
point.
I
It's
can
not that juicy.
build
I agree with that
density.
point.
I have
It's
to
a bond
bring
strategy versus like
Yeah, I mean, if you're parking cash, you just want to land bank essentially or have the asset instead of land banking, that's a whole different thing.
Right.
I'm not in that game.
no, you're trying to create value.
100%.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
on this side. I'm still pushing the rock up.
Yeah.
There's the people who are, on the other side, Like, let's just buy that and park some cash there. Sounds fun. We'll just own that.
Yeah.
Own something in downtown.
They're on the snowball
They're on the
side
other
of it.
side.
Yeah,
The other side.
Different game.
Which we're on. We're with you. We are still building wealth, building value, creating a huge portfolio that at some point it'll be worth a ton of money.
And they need us like as much as we need them.
100%.
And that was a paradigm shift for me, guys. And this is just a whole different lane. But raising capital, I don't know what's for you, Ben. I'm sure you've told your story about coming from humble beginnings. But for me, it was like asking people for money. First of all, I thought I was asking people for money like they were doing me a favor because I needed the capital to do what I wanted to do.
Right.
But then you start having those conversations, then you start performing, then you start realizing, holy shit, my team is valuable.
Yes.
Oh my God, we're actually better than a lot of these people out here that I had on a pedestal. I say it with humility, but you start to get good at what you're doing and super zoned in. You're like, dude, they need to beat inflation.
We're bringing awesome deals to them. You're providing value.
100%. But it was a massive paradigm shift. And when it hit, bro, like there was no going back. And I had literally, I'll even say like, I had prayed about this. I had really struggled with this for years with raising capital. And once it hit, like, dude, what we're doing is dope. And there's going to come a time when we're not going to want these people's money anymore. In fact, we're going to want to go to the bank more. So they better get in now while they have the opportunity to put in equity. And I that really hit hard.
Yeah.
I was like, that's something that's good because we know we're not even going to want their equity soon. We're going to try to get around that by going to the bank and JVing with landowners, as we were talking about, getting super long escrows on multi-million-dollar properties. Then we're going to create a land lift through doing development in-house. Take a property that's worth $2 million. Now I go to the bank and say it's worth $4.5 million.
Here's the permits.
Well, and you have a track record.
Then they give me all that debt.
Yeah.
Now my cap stack for the equity side is way smaller.
Yep.
And
you own the whole piece versus
100%.
having to share it.
And that's where we'll be going in the long term. But until then, check us out, guys.
No, but that's it's the nature of the beast. And there is like when you're young and you haven't taken investor dollars and you don't have it. But like you can scale so much better if it becomes a community engagement of people with money that honestly, like we talk about all the time. Now the access to the deals is what's become extremely valuable.
And that's the
It's
big
becoming
thing.
more and more valuable.
Yeah.
Yes.
People are like, we want access to your space. How do we find it? Like people are looking for guys like you. We've said, hey, you know, I can't just get this in my 401k.
But it was a paradigm shift.
It's a total
and you have to earn
paradigm.
your stripes.
Well, and you
know
gotta
what I mean?
perform. You
gotta
gotta have a track
100% you have to
Track
perform.
record's
You have to
big.
perform.
Yeah.
So like now all of my broker buddies when we were growing up together, they were like younger, maybe junior brokers and all that. Well, they now run the whole country of mobile home parks and they're my buddies. I've been working with them for 10 plus years. So like you can't, no matter who you are in a suit, you can't just come in and be like,
no way.
I want to buy all your deals.
Yeah.
No
how
way.
It works.
You're like, bro, you're in the wrong room, dude.
Yeah.
Go on LoopNet, bro.
Yeah, we got a couple of stinkers on LoopNet.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out.
Got a great deal for you.
And I think too, like just going back to your point on raising capital, like I think you need to like build that confidence because it's not like you're just selling. Like the way that I look at it is that I know what I know and I know that these deals are very valuable. And I know that if I don't sell, I'm doing a disservice to that person on the other side of the table or whoever I'm speaking to, because if they don't come into one of our deals, they're going to come into one of our competitors' deals, which is probably going to be an inferior asset, not as good of an operator. They're not going to have as good of an experience, overall experience. So that's the way that I look at it. And it took me a while to actually get to that point. But I really do think that if I do not, and to me, it's not selling. It's really just educating and building that relationship.
Yeah.
And then overcoming with them any like obstacles that they have, which is usually it's just questions that they have that just haven't been asked.
Fear, concern.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like building that trust, because I truly feel like if they don't come in with us, then I'm going to be doing them a disservice, because I know that these deals are so valuable and that the downside risk is so minimal. Like it's that they'll go with somebody else and probably have a worse experience. The probability of them going and doing it with somebody else is not going to be as high.
But I used to train on that in sales and door to door in my company, all my sales guys. I would be like, dude, there's so many solar companies out there that are all dirtbags. Guys, we are potentially saving some old lady or some old guy or a young couple that's trying to make it in the world from getting screwed by some POS company, but it was, to your point, I had to go another level with that, with the capital raising thing.
Yeah, because everyone talks about their wins, but I talk to investors all the time that invest across different operators, and you'd be shocked of how many people have horror stories where they've lost money. You know, that this person was the shining star.
Lately too. I've been hearing
multi-student housing, embezzlements, you know, in New York Times stories.
There's people in this community in San Diego that if we had a conversation offline, some of the stuff I know about some of these guys, it's brutal, dude. They're rocking. Yeah, I'm not even gonna get into it. I don't want to get in trouble. But
I think that's where we align with, like, you know, what goes around comes around, and just being good people and helping provide a service that people, you know, it's a win-win for everybody.
100%. And that's why I love the community thing you guys do. Like, you know, it's vital to be connected to your investors. It's vital to essentially not have ego, be presenting really good deals. I'm not selling, hey, this is an opportunity. Hey, we work super hard and have been doing this for 15 years to be able to find this deal. Yeah. We know what to do with it after we close on it to create the NOI that we're looking for. I mean, like you said, Blake, that doesn't just fall in your lap, dude.
No.
You gotta earn that.
And the institution's kicked my ass for like 10 years. You know, and all of a sudden now they're having trouble because their equity is real spooky right now, and I don't blame them. You know, if you're writing $100 million checks into properties and you're an institution, it's tricky to understand what's happening. But we don't have to. We're not hitting everything on a knife edge. We don't have to, you know, have perfectly IRR, you know, driven deals that are like, if they move a quarter of a point on our IRR, it breaks the model. You know, we're in it for a longer term. So that's where we have an edge, because we're private. We make the decisions. We offer the deals up. The people that want to be in the deals invest with us. And then we know, okay, we have...
What type of fund do you guys use?
We just use a per deal LLC. We just raise capital. Every deal is separate.
Is it a 506 that you're putting it into?
506B.
B.
Deal by deal, single.
So we're doing our first, it's coming out in the next 6 weeks. It's going to be a 504. So we'll probably move into the 506. It's a 504D. It's like... you could look it up. It's similar to the other ones, except you don't have to report to the SEC at all.
Okay.
And, you know, it'll probably be like 5 million. But again, you guys, like, man, raising capital is tough sometimes. You guys, make it easy with your partners when they're trying to raise capital with you. It's tough. Take it easy on Ben.
Raising capital is always tough. It's been harder in most recent years, just given, you know, what's happened in the stock market and underperformance across other asset classes. But we've been very blessed and fortunate. We have some of the best investors, so it makes my job a lot easier.
And you guys are faith-based, right? Your group?
Yeah.
Do you find that in the community that helps you with your investors?
I wouldn't say like we lean, like that's a sales pitch for us. It's just who we are and what we believe in. And I think just what we give off feeds, like people can sense that and feel that, rather than actually having to explicitly say that. I think it's just the energy that we kind of kick off.
Because I've thought about that in my marketing. Like, you know, I'm a Christian as well, as you know, Ben. And so I do put out some stuff with my family and, you know, some religious stuff. But I think, you know, there is a fine line. Obviously, you don't want to be using sort of your religion to make money. But, you know, so I've thought about that, right? Like, how much is too much?
I think it's a common thread, another topic, another, you know, good conversation to be had, like for you to sit down at lunch and be able to talk about the Bible or your men's study group with an investor. It's like a common interest, something that like is another layer where if you weren't, or you didn't kind of put it out there, they wouldn't maybe necessarily know. Yeah. And so it just creates kind of, I think, in my opinion, another layer to connect with people and talk about it. And then I think,
and they know what pastor to call if we mess up.
Yeah,
yeah. Bro, I'll be there Sunday morning.
God, pray for me. Yeah.
I think it's most clients. They aren't really. We don't like lead with it. We don't sell with it.
No.
It's funny to me lately. People have been bringing it up more, and I'm not saying anything different.
Yeah. Well,
so like it's almost like
an uncertain kind of economy and like change too brings more people back to faith, and so maybe that's a reason why they bring it up?
The only time I've used it.
Tariffs make people pray, Jack. That's what you're saying.
Please, Lord. I need my cheap Home Depot parts.
Shane, please.
On the flip side too, like because we're vertically integrated and we property manage everything we acquire, we do have it in our mission statement with our property management side of things. And a lot of our employees really like that. You know, I don't think it's very common in a lot of companies today. And so we've heard a lot of feedback from the team that they just really like that it's there, but it's not thrown in our face. You know, like we can embrace it as much as they want to. And so from a team aspect and kind of a company culture, we've heard some really good feedback that, you know,
I love that.
We work every day with people. We want to have some alignment from a moral standpoint, right?
Yeah.
So like it's
Agreed.
a quick way to sort of boil down who jumps on our team, and we end up with a great team because of it.
Yeah.
And even if people, you know, aren't Christian or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just it's us leaning into the fact that we are, but we're not out selling it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Thank you for sharing that, guys.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, we're fired up for you, man. I think you're in the strike zone.
Yeah.
I know.
So
Definitely in the right space.
I like the
I'll
strike
jump on your
zone.
podcast if you want.
Some special ops Navy SEAL talk right there, bro.
I have a okay. Actually,
I got a good buddy who's a SEAL. He's retiring in August. So yes, the strike zone.
I took
cool.
an investor client. This goes back years ago. Invest with me. I'm like, he's a SEAL. I'm like, oh man, I can't screw this one up.
100% too.
It was like one investors where I'm like, man, I cannot screw this up or he'll hunt my ass down.
Dude, he told me one time, shout out Mace. He told me, if you call me once and I don't answer, it's because I'm busy. If you call me back to back, he's like, I'll be there. And you know what that means? He's like, if you guys do that, just know that we're coming in hot. They speak. Did your buddy ever look at your hands? They're trained, bro. Those dudes are something else, bro. They're a trip, dude.
And all the things.
They're a trip.
Yeah.
No, it's fun stuff.
It is
I get a kick out of it. We're big into guns and shooting, and over the years, we don't do as much anymore with kids. But I can't wait. My kiddos get old enough to start shooting. We have a shooting range we belong to out here in Pine Valley, and that's good stuff.
Yeah, I grew up in El Cajon, dude. Pine Valley picnics out there with the church, bro.
Yeah.
Apple pies and Julian.
Yeah.
You guys do archery?
I haven't gotten into it just because it's pretty deep. So I have buddies that gotten into it, but
It's fun. Compound bows. It's fun.
My husband's been looking into it recently because my son's like, I want to do archery. And he's like, all of a sudden, there's a really cool archery place by us. I'm in Poway. So
oh yeah, I heard about
they're-
that.
Lake Poway Park, as you're driving in, there's this really cool like archery spot. And so it's like 5 minutes from our house.
Nice.
And so we're like, Owen wants to go check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool thing.
Yeah, we all have little ones, and you as well. So hobbies are kind of low on my list, but I would love to get into archery. I love to golf more, get into shooting, do something. But right now,
How big is your guys' lot? Your house?
lot?
Yeah.
It's most of the front yard. I should know this. I don't know, probably like a 6,000 square foot lot or something.
So,
like
dude,
that.
the cool thing about archery is you can shoot in your backyard.
Yeah, my backyard's pretty small though. I do have a
Front
question
yard,
here.
I don't know where you're at, how your HOA, your neighbors would be.
Thank God I don't have an HOA.
Just out there in camo, dude. Like, bro.
I do have a quick question for you though, and it relates to your business. So, when ADUs first started, it was all about garage conversions. How do you see? I have a garage. Some of my neighbors, they've converted them into ADUs, and then they have two separate addresses. What do you think about converting your garage, like a double car garage, into an ADU? Do you think it reduces the overall value of the house? Like, what are the costs really? Like, saying.
So I will say this. Back in the day, to answer your question, Ben, when I was selling solar, I told all of my friends, my pastor, everyone who I loved, you should get solar. It's a no-brainer. And buy it from me. I'll give you the best price I can possibly give you. That's going to be better than anyone else. If you want to get 2 or 3 other quotes, come back to me. I'll beat those, but I'm already going to crush those anyways. It's a no-brainer. You should do it. Some people did, some people didn't. I would tell you, if you are okay with not having your garage to use for your car or for storage, it's a no-brainer. Conversions are a no-brainer because you're going to create, the frame is already there, the foundation is already there, the infrastructure is pretty much already there. All you need to do is essentially get the permit and convert it, put in a bathroom, put in a kitchen, and then you're creating cash. And that will just literally, you've created a door that will produce income forever. It will increase the equity on your property 100%. And it was actually 2. So there were granny flats. There's obviously a lot of illegal units that have been built over time, but the government, the state government came out with 1-in-1s is what we call them. So 1 attached or detached ADU by right, and then the conversion, which is the JADU by right. San Diego leaned in, and they're actually going to creating new laws now. There's going to be more for the state, but San Diego essentially said, no, we like that. We want more. That's why we can stack ADUs like multifamily. But back to your question, Ben, I honestly think that if you know someone in the ADU space, you know me, you should do it if your wife and your family's okay with converting that garage. It's a no-brainer, dude.
I probably wouldn't do it while I lived there, but I was actually just chatting with Jen. I was like, because we'll eventually sell this house, and I would like to keep repeating what I'm doing, buying a house, doing some upgrades, and then refinancing it, and then turning it into a rental.
It's a no-brainer.
And then move on to the next. And so I was just telling Jen, I was like, it will never cash flow. But then I was like, talking to you, I'm like, what if I created another unit?
3 units instead of 1. I mean, and if you can get the price right, that's the thing, right? You have a contractor that comes in, a salesperson that comes in, they're trying to maximize the return.
Yeah.
Let's see, let's sit down.
All right.
Have some coffee. We can talk.
Good play, honestly.
Yeah. All right.
It's a
What's
no-brainer.
your house that you're renting?
Pardon?
The house.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
They don't even use that garage.
Bro, that one's got the 3% money on it.
Yeah, that's a really
Like, that
good
one's
point.
going to pump.
Okay, we should chat. And then one last question, and I think for the viewers too. How much, give me ballpark. I'm not going to hold you anything. Whether the price per square foot or just throw me out some ballpark numbers. How much would it cost, let's just say very basic finishes, to do a garage conversion? I know there's a lot of factors, so just give me big ranges. I just want to have an idea.
Generally, you're about anywhere from 75 to 125.
That's pretty damn good for a 2-car garage.
Not square footage, thousands.
Yeah, 75,000 to 120.
Yeah, I know. I picked that up. Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds pretty
we're
cheap.
on the same page. Yeah. So generally, you're at $75,000 to $125,000, and it's done.
And you're not getting permits.
And that's for
We are getting permits.
Okay.
Yeah.
That way you can actually have the address and make it legit.
Well, I mean, it's risk mitigation, right? It's done properly. When you sell the house, they can market it with an additional unit, and it's you don't have to worry about the neighbors. You could sleep at night, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's done the right way.
Yeah.
You can't sell
Neighbors
it
are
at
going to
that.
get pissed here and there.
All right, my gears are turning. I like it.
It's a no-brainer, dude. Garage conversions, I'll sell all day because they just make so much sense. The additional units, whether they're attached or detached, it depends.
Yeah, you're laying foundation. You're pulling utilities.
It's more involved, and so that becomes more challenging when you have one unit doing development versus scale.
Yeah.
Because you don't get economies of scale. And so that's actually a problem in the industry as well, along with the debt. How are we doing on time, guys?
Let's wrap up. That was fun.
Yeah.
We appreciate all your input.
dude.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Thanks for being here today.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Till
We had
next time.
a fun, casual conversation today. Hopefully you get some value out of it. So appreciate you joining for another episode of the CashFlow Quest.